should start.
Together, and I need to hear you with some clapping. So it goes like this. Hinei matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hinei matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. And now you're going to echo me in English like this. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be
together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is to be
together on this day. Hinei matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hinei matov umanayim. Let's do that echo one more time because it is so good. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is
to be together on this day. Hinei matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad. Hinei matov umanayim sheberachim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good morning. It is
Shabbat
so
Shalom.
great to be together with you. Cantor, it is great to be with you. Hinei matov, it is really good to be together this morning. It is a beautiful day outside. We are going to make it a beautiful day inside. Thank you for being here this morning to help take part in the service and celebrate with Emily and Avery on this very huge and important day in their lives and in their families' lives. A word about how we can make this day as meaningful as possible to our new leaders of prayer. If you are in the congregation with us and you have not yet grabbed a prayer book, now is the time to do so. These young women will be leading us in prayer this morning, and we can acknowledge and appreciate their efforts best when we follow them as they lead us. Those of you that are joining us online, thank you for being with us through the wonder of live streaming on our website. If you are watching us this morning, we hope you'll take just a second to drop a little message of love and congratulations, maybe some wishes of Shabbat Shalom in the chat box. A piece of advice before you do that, if you click the little gear icon on the live streaming tab, you can change your display name, which means that Emily and Avery will know who is wishing them Mazel Tov and Shabbat Shalom on this day, and we can share your comments with them after today's service. So again, Boker Tov, good morning, and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for being with us.
And so if you'll turn in your prayer books, which open from right to left, if you've never used a Hebrew prayer book before, it's a little bit backwards from what you're used to. And we're going to turn to page 174. Every page has some Hebrew, transliteration, which is the Hebrew spelled out, and translation and creative readings. So don't be afraid to let your eyes wander on the page to see what these prayers are about. And now I'm going to teach you this prayer in Hebrew, Elohai Neshama, on page 174. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. This is a day where we feel our souls restored. And one of the gifts you can give to Avery and Emily this morning is to show them you're here by singing along. You may have never sung in Hebrew before, and that's okay. This is very simple, few words. I'm going to teach it to you. It goes like this. Elohai, Elohai. Let's try that. Ready?
Elohai, Elohai.
You sound beautiful. The next part goes like this. Neshama, Neshama. Let's try that together. Ready? Neshama, Neshama. This is the trickiest bit, but I know you can do it. It goes like this. Shena ta ta bi, shena ta ta bi. Try that with me. Ready?
Shena ta ta bi, shena ta ta bi.
And the last part goes like this. Tehorahi, tehorahi. Let's try that. Tehorahi, tehorahi. You sound beautiful. Let's try the whole thing all together. Here we go. Elohai, Elohai. Neshama, neshama, neshama. Shena tata bi, shena tata bi, shena tata bi. Tehorahi, tehorahi, tehorahi. We're going to sing it one more time, just our voices. Let's fill this giant room together. Elohai, Elohai. Neshama, neshama. Shena tata bi, shena tata bi. Tehorai, tehorai. Beautiful praying, I
Really
thought.
beautiful. On page 195 in our books now, this morning, Emily and Avery, who become Benot Mitzvah this morning, achieve a new status in Jewish life as they lead their congregation in prayer and teach us Torah and read this week's portion in the presence of their congregation. And so as we begin their leadership, it is my pleasure to invite Emily forward to take her space at the reader's table as she makes her way up, and all of you have already turned to page 195. I'll invite you to rise for Baruch Hu.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai lai lai. Yai la lai lai lai. Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai lai lai. Yai la lai lai lai. Yai la lai lai yai lai 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 lai. Baruch Adonai, Amevora, Baruch Adonai, Amevora, Amevora, Leolam Baed, Amevora, Amevora.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei hoshech, osei shalom uvarei et hakol. This prayer is about the wonder of creation. I want to share a creative reflection that is not on the page in front of you. Author of life, architect of creation, artist of earth, your works declare your holy name. Mighty rivers, turbulent seas, towering mountains, rolling hills, vast spaces of brilliance and grandeur. You created palette and paint, color and hue, shape and form, abundant and beautiful, glorious and majestic, full of mystery and wonder. Blessed are you, with divine love, you created a world of splendor. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot.
Amen.
We continue responsively on page 199. Page 199. O God, inspiration and guide for all, you have spoken in 1,000 tongues for us to hear. In every land, in every age, your children have heard you and imagined you in separate ways. And yet, O God, you are one, unifier of humanity.
We give thanks for the sages and teachers who bring us understanding of your will. Gratefully we recall the lawgivers and prophets, the psalmists and sages of Israel. And joyfully we remember that from the dawn of Israel's life, we would turn to you and find purpose.
May the teachings of our ancestors live on in our minds, and their passion for righteousness stir our hearts. Help us to live so that our daily conduct reveals the beauty and wisdom of your truth. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher ba'amo Yisrael, ba'ahava. Please be seated. Ve'afta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher nohi metzavecha hayom alevavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'divarta bam ve'shivtecha ve'techa uvletecha v'adere uvshofbecha uvkumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha ve'hayu letotafot beinenecha uvtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Leman tiskeru vasitem et kumisvotai vitem kedeshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hoseit yedhem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lahem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. We read together on the bottom of page 203. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children to come,
generations to come.
the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la la.
We We move now into the Amidah section of our prayer service, and as Emily rejoins her family, it is my pleasure to invite Avery up to the reader's table to be our leader of these prayers. As she makes her way up, you can join us on page 205, where the Amidah begins.
Please rise.
Adonai, sefatai tifta ufia gitehi latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zoher Hastevot V'Imahot, Umi V'Gula Livnei Menehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Megan Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mehayeh hakol atarav le'Oshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mehakel hayim behesed, Mehayeh hakol berahami ravim, Somech oflim ve'ofei holim. Umatir Asurim, Umikayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'agavurot, Umidamela, Melech Mimit, Umichaye, Umatzmi Yeshua, Benemana Talecha Hayot Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehayeh hakol.
The next prayer in our books found on page 208 and 209 is called the Kedusha. It is about the holiness of this day. And this prayer allows us to feel this holiness with our bodies. So many of our prayers are a lot of words. This allows us to feel it with our bodies. And so when we get to some specific words, one being the word for holy, kadosh, we sing this word 3 times. Each time we sing it, we go up on our toes, also on the word baruch and yimloch. So I'm going to show you these moments so that we can feel this holiness together as a community. Nikadesh, Nikadesh, Nikadesh et Shemecha ba'olam, Nikadesh et Shemecha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto, Bishmei marom, Kakatuv aliyad nevi'echa, V'karazel ze ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevot, Meloch ha'aretz kivodo, Adir, Adirenu,
Please be seated. We continue at the bottom of page 210.
השמיים ואת הארץ ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
We continue responsively by paragraph on page 212. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others.
Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us.
Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you.
We praise you, Adonai, whom alone we serve in reverence.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. We continue at the bottom of the next page. Modim anachnu la sha'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. This prayer is about gratitude. I want to share a creative reflection that is not on the page in front of you. Thanks for all you made. Thanks for all you gave me. Insight and understanding. A friend or two. For all that I have in the world, a flowing song and a forgiving heart. Because of all this, I go on. Thanks for all you made. Thanks for all you gave me. A child's laughter, blue skies, a piece of land, and a warm home. A place to sit, loving friends. Because of all this, I go on. Thanks for all you made. Thanks for all you gave me. A day of happiness, honesty, and integrity. A sad day that is gone. The victory of 2,000 years and the white wings of peace. Because of all this, I go on. Baruch atah Adonai, ha-tov shimcha u'lecha na'eh lehodot. We continue with our prayer for peace, Sim Shalom, on the top of page 216.
it begin with me. Let's try it together. Sim, ready? Sim, shalom, shalom. Sim, shalom, sim, shalom. Let it begin with me. Let it begin with me. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me. Try it with me again. Sim, shalom, sim, shalom, sim, shalom. Let it begin with me. Oh, sim, shalom, sim, shalom. Let it begin with me. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me. We invite-
Avery, you can return to your seat now, and as she makes her way back, we're going to take just a couple of moments quietly now for us to add to the prayers of the prayer book the reflections of our own hearts. So let's take just a moment for our own individual silent prayer. We're about to move now into the service for the reading of Torah on this Shabbat morning, and as we get ready for this climactic section of our service, I want to invite Emily and Avery back up to the readers' table, and I want to invite their families to assist us in the ritual of passing the Torah scroll. So from Emily's family, I want to invite Heather and Daniel, Betty Pesikoff and Richard Pesikoff, Holly Medwick and Ron Medwick. On Avery's side, I want to invite Tara Nudick, Adam Pollock, Lisa Pollock, Stephen Burrell, Ricky Nudick, Gordon Nudick, Janie Pollock, and John Pollock to find their spaces as they make their way there, and our leaders of prayer make their way to the readers' table. Our Torah service begins on page 244.
Adonai
6 on page 32.
Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children, who do not yet know it, hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God.
Happy is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For its value is greater than silver, its yield than fine gold. It is more precious than rubies. No treasure can match it.
We prepare now to remove the Torah scrolls from the ark, and as we do, I want to invite Isabel Pesikoff and Tyler Pollock up to the bima to assist us with the doors of the ark as they make their way up, and we get ready to open the ark. I'll invite the congregation to rise. Emily and Avery, you stand now with generations of your family who have celebrated their joys and made their way through difficult times as well in this sacred space, all of them anticipating joyfully and eagerly this day that you would take your place as an adult leader of your congregation and a member of your people. And today, that day is here, as the two of you take your place as Jewish adults and prepare to take these scrolls and their wisdom into your hearts.
And so you will hear the words Lador Vador. You become the next link in the chain that goes back through the generations of your family, all the way to Abraham and Sarah. And we are so honored to learn from you this morning.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
All right.
And return to your seat.
My dear, sweet little Emily, there are so many wonderful characteristics that define you. Everyone here knows you for your infectious smile and laugh. As Jerry Seinfeld once said, the greatest Jewish tradition is to laugh. And as we all know, you have that one covered. You are also bold and courageous. I witnessed you step into a pool before you could swim, ski black diamonds in Taos when most kids were on the buddy slope, perform in world-renowned theaters without a single fear, and attempt to slide down our banister, or maybe that was an attempt to fly. Last year, I also witnessed you start a new school, make amazing new friends, and adjust to online learning without skipping a beat. Your ability to pivot and take things in stride will continue to be an important part as you maneuver through life. Albert Einstein commented that the best measure of intelligence is the ability to change. You demonstrate daily that a person can adjust her future by merely changing her attitude. You always hit things head on with grace, happiness, and determination. Remember to focus on what is important, capture the good times, develop from the negatives, and if things don't work out, take another shot, or in your case, another at bat. Continue to be you. Be silly, be bold, be determined, be courageous. Most of all, continue to be happy. There is no doubt you will succeed. A few things to remember and support you along your journey. Your community. Look out right now. Friends and family near and far, most on Zoom, to support you. We will always be standing by you and behind you to support you in whatever path you choose. We all know you set the bar extremely high for yourself. You always do your best. We ask that you hold those high expectations in one hand and in the other an equal amount of self-compassion. Compassion and tolerance are not a sign of weakness, but rather a sign of strength. Continue to be the person that makes people smile during those moments when they need it most. Remember what I say each day when you leave for school. Make good choices, which leads me to the next thought. Always remember who you are and what you learned becoming a bat mitzvah. Just as you learned more about the Torah today, remember the other things you've learned about Judaism, its lessons and laws, whether they're at camp, here at Emmanuel, or our family traditions. Also remember that hard work and perseverance are keys to success as you demonstrated to yourself today, preparing for your bat mitzvah. Last but not least, remember the blessing of family. You and your sister have an incredibly strong bond. You understand each other in ways that no one else does. We can be sitting at the table having a family dinner, and the two of you just look at each other and have your own conversation without any words. I don't know how you do it, but it always, well, most of the time, it ends in laughter. Continue to cherish and encourage that deep, genuine friendship. Be there for each other, show up for each other. You can always tell who the strong women are. They are the ones you see building one another up instead of tearing each other down. Your sister is and will always be one of your greatest supporters and truest friends. No matter what path you choose, Daddy and I will be there standing by your side. My dear little sweet bunny, M&M, Bunny Baboo, Pesky, powerful, determined, compassionate, graceful, intelligent, let your path always shine bright. I love you.
I just want to take a moment before I share some thoughts about Emily and say thank you and mazel tov to Avery, the Pollock, and Nudek families for sharing this joyous occasion with us. It's been an adventure with unique hurdles, but we could not have asked for a sweeter partner and sweeter families. Emily, rarely does a day go by where your mother and I aren't surprised by your achievements and accomplishments. And I do mean surprised. From the time you were born, you had a voice. We heard you loud and clear those first few weeks. Then there was that day in preschool when you put a boy in a headlock for stealing your mat, and the day you stated you wanted to play the flute. Along the way, you've performed magnificently on some of the world's greatest stages, the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and the London School of Music. I remember the day your mother and I opened your locker. We paused and both said to one another, "Are you sure this is Emily's locker?" It was impeccably organized, unlike your room. As all of you know, Emily and I have spent hours upon hours together on the softball field. While I may get frustrated sometimes with the game, I am proud not only of how well you play, but more so those times when you pick yourself up from a mistake or a bad at bat and you try again. These are the characteristics that make a good player, a good teammate, and a good person. As you prepared for this day and we discussed your parashah, its teachings and meanings, what surprised me was your ability not only to extrapolate lessons, but also choose a path less traditional. Like I said when we talked about it months ago, agree or disagree with the rabbis and sages, but make sure you can support and believe in your decision. In a few minutes, everyone will hear just that. I have no doubt, as you continue through this world after today, that you will continue to surprise and amaze your mother and me. Continue to perform and accomplish anything that comes your way. Just try not to put people in headlocks. And continue to make your voice heard for the whole world to hear.
This morning, Emily will be reading for us from this week's Torah portion. This week's portion is Parshat Noach, the section that includes the story about Noah and the ark. We'll be hearing this morning from the 6th chapter of Genesis. If where you are sitting has a red book in back of the seat in front of you, that is the Torah commentary, and you can follow along with our Benot Mitzvahs reading this morning. Emily's section will begin on page 57 of those red books. We're starting at Genesis chapter 6, verse 9, and as you all are making your way to the beginning of that story, I want to invite Emily's grandparents up to the reader's table to receive the honor of this first aliyah, this first set of blessings to be recited over the Torah reading. I want to invite Betty and Richard Pesikoff, Holly and Ron Medwick up to the bima.
As they make their way up, Emily, you can remove the cover from the scroll, put it underneath the bima. Yamdu, Batya Esther, Reuben, Dov Ber, Leah Fruma, Reuben, Lev, Aliyah le Torah. If you all can come closer to the microphone so we can hear you. Baruch Adonai Habarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Habarach Leolam Asher bo chabanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Emily or Yad should be there waiting for you.
Got it.
Amen. Eile toda Noah, Noah, Ish Sadiq, Tamim Haya, Bader Tav, Et HaElohim, Hitalach Noah, Vayalet Noah, Shlosha Banim, Et Shem, Et Ham, Et Yafet, Vatishahet Haaretz, Lifnei Elohim, Vatimale Haaretz, Hamas.
Emily will chant that Aliyah in English. You want to move that microphone down just a speck more? Here we go.
This is the line of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. He was blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth became corrupt before God. The earth was filled with violence.
Now the closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Beautiful. Mazel tov, grandparents. You can return to your seats. I want to invite Isabel back up to join her parents for this second aliyah. The second aliyah goes to Emily's sister and her parents together, Daniel and Heather Pesikoff and Isabel Pesikoff.
Yamdu Daniel ben Reuven Vibatia Rivka Zisa bat Reuven Belea Shulamit Itka bat Daniel Berivka Zisa Aliyah LeTorah. Isabel, if you want to take your mask off for the blessing. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayar Elohim et haaretz v'hinei nishata ki hishit kol basar et darko al haaretz. Vayomer Elohim lenoah ketz kol basar balefana ki malah haaretz hamas pnehem v'hineni mashitam et haaretz. Aseh lecha tevat atse gofer kinim tase et teva bahafarta ota mi bait umi hoots bakofer.
Beautiful.
Closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Our third and final aliyah will be blessed by Emily herself. She receives this sort of special honor of the third and final aliyah, at which she is called by her Hebrew name to lead her congregation in learning.
Tamod habachura habat mitzvah ela Michal bat Daniel verivka zisa aliyah LeTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
V'zeh asher taseh ota shlosh me'ot ama, ore hateva hamishim ama rochba, ushloshim ama kamata. Zohar taseh lateva, velama tehalena milamala, ufeta hateva betzida tasim, tachtim shnim ushlishim taseha. Va'ani hineni mevi etamabo maim al haaretz leshahed kol basar asher bo ruach hayim mitahat hashamayim kol asher ba'aretz yigba v'hakimoti et briti ita uvata el hetava ata uvanecha v'ishtaha unshavanecha ita. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Emily, thank you for your beautiful reading. I will ask your parents if they can help pull the Torah cover out from under the table there and place it on top of the scroll as we take just a moment in our service to pause for a prayer of healing.
You can put the blue one back.
Yeah, that's fine. The words of Mishaberach are in our prayer books on page 253. This is a precious and cherished custom in our congregation to pause with the words of Torah still in the air around us, to turn our thoughts to those around us who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. And we do it at this particular moment because we want to take advantage of this time of heightened sanctity and transcendence to turn our thoughts to others. All of us, I think, know people who are in need of healing and recovery and comfort in this world around us. So we turn our thoughts to them as we combine our voices and our prayers together to offer this Mishaberach, page 253. We're now going to switch the Torah scrolls from which we are reading this morning, and so as we redress one scroll and undress another, I'll invite the congregation to rise, please.
Avery, given your love for theater, I've written my blessing to you in the form of a 3-act play. Now, don't worry, we won't be here all night. I promise that the play is short, but you may recognize lines or lyrics from plays that you have either seen or performed in. Prelude. It's a glorious fall day in Houston. Avery and Emily have just done a beautiful job leading their family, friends, and congregation in prayer. Avery takes a deep breath. Take a deep breath. And looks around the congregation, thankful for everyone who has come from near and far to share in her special simcha. Act 1, the beginning. From The Little Mermaid. I'll whip up a little spell to make her dreams come true. Avery, you arrived right on time, on the exact day you were due. And every day since that unforgettable evening on October 4th, 2008, I felt and continue to feel fortunate to be your mother. Your smiling eyes radiate with kindness, intelligence, and positivity. Act 2, the present. From Matilda. Somewhere inside all of us is the power to change the world. As we will soon learn from your Devar Torah, you have a passion for equity, diversity, and inclusion. Given your desire to work with at-risk children living in poverty for your Mitzvah project, I know that we can expect you to continue to advocate for those in need throughout your life. Act 3, the future. From Hairspray. The future's got a million roads for you to choose, but you'll walk a little higher in those high heel shoes. My prayer and wish for you today and forever is that you continue to find opportunities for tikkun olam, which means repairing the world through good deeds. I know that you will continue to exhibit compassion, generosity, and tolerance for others as you enter adulthood. Prologue. From Wicked. Keep flying high, defying gravity. I wish you a lifetime of health, happiness, success, and the courage to follow your dreams. Do you know how much I love you? Yup. I love you so. I could keep going forever, much.
Can I say that was a hard act to follow? We want an encore? First, thank you all for being here in person and online. Second, Mazel Tov to Emily and the Pesikoff family. It's been great watching Emily and Avery grow throughout this process, and I'm glad that we had great partners in Heather and Daniel and Isabel and Mac to share this journey, occasionally made more enjoyable over cocktails. Avery, where to start? The letter A seems a logical place. After all, we are the A team. However, as I reflect on your bat mitzvah, the young women you're becoming, your part as the B part in the service, and my blessing for you, it only seems natural to go with the next letter in the alphabet, B. From the time you were my baby burrito, all swaddled, to my boomer on the softball field, I've always had nicknames for you. However, one sticks out here as we sit here today, the one I've called you almost every day of your life, my triple BG, my big, bright, beautiful girl. Today, my blessings to you are effectively the same ones you've been hearing these past 13 years, perhaps with a little bit more color behind them. Big. While you finally eclipsed 5 feet, it's not your stature on which I'm focused, but rather the size of your heart. Here is where you have and will continue to make a difference. Don't sit back and watch, but rather go for it and be involved. Help others, help this planet. Honor your Jewish heritage and traditions, and have a purpose in life. I see your caring nature and desire to do good every day, so may you help make the world a more just and peaceful place and being a blessing to others. That's big. Bright. Be interested and continue to ask good questions. Be curious and explore. Continue your love for reading, but don't just be book smart. Become wise and look beyond the surface of things. May you do all the things you want to do, but with enough time and space around them to fully experience and appreciate each one. That's bright. Beautiful. As you know, beauty starts from the inside. It's how you treat your family and friends and those around you. Have a beautiful heart, and that smiling, radiant face of yours will always follow. That's beautiful. Equipped with these 3 B's, you now get to choose how to make your mark in the world. It's your time on stage, where you get to figure out whether you want a starring or supporting role. And as anyone in theater knows, both are equally important. Simply choose the role that fits your many strengths and talents. We're all so excited to see you on your next stage. Given today's milestone, I'm guessing you'd like me to change this nickname to Triple BYA, Young Adult. Somehow that just doesn't roll off the tongue, so how about we settle for promotion to Quadruple BG, my big, bright, beautiful bat mitzvah girl. I love you.
Avery's reading from Parshat Noach this morning begins at the start of chapter 11 of Genesis. So if you've still got those red books handy and you want to follow along in her reading, Avery's reading starts on page 80 of those books. We're starting again, Genesis 11, verse 1. And as we do, we're going to invite Avery's grandparents to the reader table to receive the honor of this first aliyah, this first set of blessings. It's a pleasure to invite Ricky Nudek, Gordon Nudek, Janie Pollock, and John Pollock up to the reader's table.
As they make their way up, Avery, you can remove the cover from the scroll and find your spot. Grab your yad. Ya'amdu Rivka Leah Hershel Tzvi Yehuda Shmuel Aliyah LeTorah.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Ha'olam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayehi kol haaretz safa echat udevarim ahadim. Vayehi ben Esam mikedem vayimseu vik'ah be'eretz shinar vayeshvu sham vayamru ish are'ehu hava nilvena levenim v'nisrefa Vatehi lahem halevena le'aven v'hachemar haya lahem lahomer.
Closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam letah b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah.
Amen. Grandparents, Mazel Tov, you can return to your seats. And now, Tara and Adam, after having heard your beautiful words in English, we now need to hear some Hebrew from you. I want to invite Avery's parents to receive the honor of this second aliyah, the second set of blessings over her Torah reading.
Yamdu techa v'simcha Yosef aliyah leTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayamru hava livnei lanu ir umigdol verosho veshamayim v'na'aseh lanu shem kenafutz al penei kol haaretz vayered Adonai lirot et ha'ir ve'et hamidot asher banu b'nei ha'adam vayomer Adonai hen am ehat Vesafa ahat lehulam vezeh hahilam la'asot ve'ata lo yivatser mehem kol Asher Yazmu Lasot.
Now Avery will chant that Aliyah in English.
And they said, come, let us build a city and a tower with its top in the sky to make a name for ourselves, or else we will be scattered across the face of the world. Then Adonai came down to see the city and the tower that was built by humans. Then Adonai said, look, these are all one people with one language for all. And this is just the beginning of their doings. And now no scheme of theirs will be beyond their reach.
And the closing blessing.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Nope.
Parents.
Parents closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Now, Avery, we have the chance to call you for your set of blessings and for your Torah reading, officially for the first time being called by your Hebrew name as a leader and teacher of Torah in your congregation.
Tamod, tamod, habachura bat mitzvah, Chana Michaela bat simcha Yosef etecha, aliyah leTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Hava nerda v'navla sham sefatam, asher lo yishme'u ish sefat re'ehu. Vayafetz Adonai otam misham al penei kol haaretz. Ve'ata lo vayachtelu leave note ha'ir. Oken kara shema bavel kisham balal Adonai sefat kol haaretz. Umisham hefitzam Adonai al penei kol haaretz.
Closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tzorheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Our reading from Torah for this morning having been concluded, we will now redress the scroll. Would you please rise? We'll continue now with the reading of this morning's Haftarah portion. This is a section from the books of the prophets that comes to accompany the words that we've read from the Torah. This morning, our Haftarah portion comes from the book of the prophet Isaiah. This morning's Haftarah reading comes from Isaiah 54. Before the girls read from Isaiah, they'll begin with blessings. These blessings for the Haftarah are in your prayer books on page 254.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Roni akara lo yalada pitzchi rina betzachali lo hala kirabim b'nei shomema mi b'nei ve'ula amar Adonai harhivi mikom ocholei v'riot mishkenotayich yatu al tachsohi ha'arihi metarayich v'tedotayich hazeki kiyamin ushmo tifrotzi ezar'ei goyim yirash ve'arim neshamot yoshivu.
Al tiri kilo tevoshi Faltikami kilo tachpiri kivo shed alumai tishkahi the pod amenutai lo tiskriod kivo alai osai Adonai Sevaot Shemo Vego ale Kedosh Yisrael Elohe Chol Haaretz Yikarei Ki Isha Azuva Vatsu Vatra Kira Adonai Ve'eshet Nurim Ki Timaes Amar Elohai.
Closing blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zur kol ha'olamim zadik bechol hadarot ha'el haneman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medober u'mekayem shekol davarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'neviim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shenatan talanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lehavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarachim otach yitvarach shimcha befi kol haytamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. We will return the Torah scrolls to the Ark now, and as we do, I want to invite Isabel and Tyler back up to assist with the doors of the Ark. As they make their way up, would you please rise?
We're going to carry the Torah.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu, for I have given you good instruction. Do not abandon my Torah. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
Eitz Chaim hi lamachzikim ba v'tomcheha me'ushar deracheha
return to your seat, and Emily's going to give her Devar Torah.
It is a pleasure now to invite Emily to teach us a bit of Torah now with the words of her Dvar Torah, her analysis of this week's Torah portion.
I always thought Noah was a righteous person because he was chosen by God to build an ark and save all living creatures. But after studying this portion, I was not so sure. I'm certain everyone here is familiar with the story of Noah from the book of Genesis, when God said to Noah, "Build an ark for you, your family, and all animals. I'm creating a flood that is going to wipe across the world because the earth is full of violence." The Torah describes Noah as righteous in his time, but it is not clear what this means. Does this mean that it was only because all the other people in his time were not acting appropriately that Noah seemed like a good person? Or does it mean that even if he were not in a time with bad people, he would still be considered a good person? The rabbis debate this topic, and some of them say that Noah was a righteous person because he did what God told him to do. However, others did not believe that he was as righteous as he could have been because he knew what God was planning to do and did not help other people or allow others onto the ark. The Hasidic master, Rabbi Eli Melech, thinks of Noah like a man in a fur coat who keeps only himself warm, unlike the truly righteous person who builds a fire and warms himself and others. However, I think Rabbi Eli Melech was wrong. Noah was a righteous person and was like the man building a fire to warm others because he warned people about the flood. According to one midrash, Noah's neighbor saw him building the ark and asked him, "Why are you doing this?" He replied, "The ruler of the universe has informed me that God will bring a great flood in the world." But instead of listening to him and acting differently, they made fun of Noah. In the end, Noah was a righteous person, not only because he followed God's instructions, but also because he warned the people of the flood and built the world's largest boat, which they could not have missed as a sign of the flood to come. In the world today, we are facing another flood. We are seeing the effects of global warming across Earth through disasters like droughts in California, wildfires in Greece, and the melting of glaciers around the world. As these glaciers melt, the sea level is rising, leading to large changes in our environment and the flooding of coastal areas. The earth is telling us to change our ways, and this time we cannot just build an ark. There is a story of a man waiting in his house as floodwaters started to rise around him. When a police officer told him to evacuate his house, the man replied, "God will not let me die, and he will rescue me." Later, a fireman came to his house on a boat as the waters came higher and higher and told him he needed to evacuate or risk dying in the floods. Again, the man replied with, "God will not let me die, and he will rescue me." The storm worsened, and the waters forced the man onto the roof. The Coast Guard came by in a helicopter, and the guardsman said, "Sir, you need to evacuate your house now. The water level is too high." And yet again, the man replied with, "God will save me, not let me die." After the floodwaters overtook the man in his house, and the man went to heaven, he asked God, "Why didn't you save me?" And God replied, "I sent a police officer in his car, a fireman in a boat, and the Coast Guard in a helicopter, but you ignored all of my warnings. What more do you want me to do?" The point to take away from this story is that God has been sending us warnings that our world is changing, that our environment is at risk, but we still have time to fix things. The purpose of the ark was so that everyone would see it and change the ways they were acting, but they did not listen. Let's not be like the people of Noah's time or the man refusing to hear God's warnings as his house flooded. We must be aware of the signs around us. We need to take action, which starts with small steps by each of us. Plant a tree, start recycling, reduce pollution. These are just some of the things each of us can do. As the Native Americans say, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. For my Mitzvah project, I wanted to do something like Noah and help the animals. Lots of people adopted dogs while they were working from home during the COVID pandemic. But now, as people go back to work and school, there's less time spent with these dogs, and many are being returned to shelters. For my Mitzvah project, I decided to put together a dog food drive to support dogs in need as the world around them changes. For my Tzedakah project, I decided to donate a portion of my gifts to the Jewish National Fund to plant trees in Israel. Following our religion's tradition of caring for the earth, planting trees helps heal our planet and provides sustenance for future generations. There are many people to acknowledge for helping me with the journey leading up to this day. First, I would like to thank my Hebrew school teachers, Rabbi Hayon, Rabbi Silk, Rabbi Fixler, and Cantor Simmons for teaching me all the material I needed to know to be prepared for my bat mitzvah. Next, thank you to all of my friends for being there when I needed you. I'm so lucky to have such amazing friends with whom I can always have fun, play sports, and laugh. I owe Avery a very special thank you for sharing this meaningful day with me. You made going to Hebrew school fun, and I'm so happy how we've grown closer over the last few years. I look forward to many more fun occasions with you and your family. To my uncles, aunts, and cousins, from near in Texas and far in Israel, we always have great times together, lots of laughter and stories to tell. I'm only sorry that Aunt Sarah is unable to be here with us today. Grammy, I have the best time when we get to see each other. Some of my favorite moments are when we spend holidays together, cook strudel, and make matzo ball soup. Papa, I love when we travel together, whether a road trip to San Antonio, a vacation in Jamaica, or just a visit to Connecticut. It is especially fun when we get to sail together. Omi, I have so much fun when we go shopping together, when we hang out at your pool, and when we ski together in Taos. Opie, you make trips to your office, the post office, and Central Market so much fun. I love hearing your silly tales and short stories. Isabel, I love hanging out with you. I know we only have 3 more years at home, and I will enjoy every second, whether it's you pouring icing into my mouth, telling funny stories, and constantly laughing, or communicating with each other without even saying a word. I love our sister language. Most importantly, you are my role model. And last but not least, Mom and Dad. Thank you for all your love, support, and laughter. Thank you for making this weekend such a special one. Dad, we are always talking about or playing softball. I love that you have been my coach. Because of you, life is full of an almost dangerous amount of laughter, like when I spit out my water or you choke on rice. Mom, I love you to the moon and back, to infinity and beyond. I love spending time with you, whether it is shopping, baking, snuggling, or watching movies with popcorn when we come home from a weekend full of softball games. I know that you are my biggest cheerleader. I love y'all so much, and I can't wait for all the memories to come. Looking back on this day, I have learned that sometimes you have to make quick adjustments. For example, because of COVID, we had to adjust her learning Hebrew virtually and make last-minute changes to our Benot Mitzvah plans. Based on the story of Noah, I sometimes wonder if COVID is another warning from God for us to change our ways, calling on us to help protect the earth and to help protect each other. Once again, we must be like the person who created the fire to warm others up, and not like the person who ignored God's messengers. I hope that future generations will look back on all of us and see that we were like Noah, righteous in our time, individuals who cared about our world. Thank you for coming to support me and Avery today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Mazel Tov, thank you for your teaching. It's so great to be with you this morning. Emily, you decided to speak in your Dvar Torah about what is probably the classic rabbinic debate about this portion and about the main character of the story, and that is Noah. The text, as you correctly points out, describes Noah as a righteous person in his generation, and there's a lot of debate and discussion about whether that's meant to be a compliment or a little bit of a diss, that he's only righteous because everybody around him was a bunch of knuckleheads. I love the solution that you come to and the way you resolve that dilemma in the end, which is that Noah did what he could, and that he wound up saving humanity and saving the planet. So we have to conclude that he is a righteous person. I think you're also right to see in this portion an invitation for us to think about what it means to be good. I think this is the beginning of the Bible's exploration of God's expectation that we have a sense of morality, a sense of right and wrong, a sense of responsibility for other people, and that there is an obligation for us to be good. But the flexibility of that language raises a big question, and that is, how good are we supposed to be? How good do we have to be? Do we compare ourselves to the other folks in our family or in our community or in our world? Emily, as you enter adulthood, we also have an expectation that you will be good. We want you to be a good citizen. We want you to be a good Jew, a good daughter, and a good sister. And as you correctly pointed out, the expectation to be good gets a little complicated when we think about who you should be compared to in assessing how good you are. Do we compare your goodness to the other kids on the softball team? Do we compare your goodness to every other seventh grader in the world? Do we compare your goodness to the other people in our country and our world? What you correctly lead us to, Emily, is that eventually that kind of comparison is going to lead us nowhere fruitful. It doesn't help us a whole lot to think about our goodness only in comparison to other people. Really, the ultimate question that comes to us as Jewish adults and as spiritual people is, are we living up to our own potential? Are we being as good as we can be, not as good as anybody could be? That's the question that's posed to you today as you enter Jewish adulthood. Are you being as good as you can be? Noah, you're correct, lived up to his title as an ish tamim, as a righteous person, because he fulfilled what God expected of him, to save humanity and save the planet and preserve life on earth. Emily, your parents have given you an extraordinary gift. They have helped instill in you that voice of conscience and ethics and right and wrong that drives their decision making. You come from a family that takes seriously the obligation to be good and to do good. And I hope that as you make your way into Jewish adulthood, you'll continue listening carefully to that little voice that comes from inside and the powerful voice that comes from the generations of your family. I first met you when Julie and I moved to Houston, I think shortly after that banister sliding incident that your mom mentioned in her remarks. You were really little then, and I remember the joke about, well, maybe Emily's just trying to learn to fly. And you were. And so, Emily, as you make your way into adulthood, as you take your place as an adult member of this family and in this community, I want you to fly. I want you to live up to all those expectations of goodness and conscience. I want you to live up to your full potential as a human being, as a thinker, as a teammate, and as a citizen. We want you to be as good as you can be. And I know as you continue to take flight, you will do exactly that. Mazel tov. Shabbat shalom. Emily, you can rejoin your family, and now I will invite Avery to the bima to share her words of wisdom, her Dvar Torah, and her exploration of this week's Torah portion.
My parsha is Noah in the book of Genesis. The parsha describes the building of the Tower of Babel. The tower was made in hopes to reach the heavens. God saw how this tower was making people act. God destroyed the tower and made the people speak different languages from another. Now that nobody could understand each other, the people went off to develop their own cultures and communities. When you read the story of the Tower of Babel, The portion does not give a clear explanation of what the people did wrong. What was the main reason that God decided to separate their languages? Rabbi Naftali Zvi Berlin teaches that humans benefit from diversity, and that when people all think the same, they start to push out anyone who is even a little different. This is bad because those people could offer new ideas and perspectives. Rabbi Berlin imagined that the Tower of Babel could have been used as a watchtower, where the people could survey the land and spot anyone different trying to enter town. He theorized that the tower builders had secret police to guard and keep out new ideas, and to arrest anyone who had them. If this was true, God's mixing up people's languages was not a punishment, but a sign that we are not all supposed to be the same. I know a place that is a lot like the Tower of Babel. It's called middle school. At school, we often find ourselves forming cliques based on what we like and what we don't. We might not even realize it, but our friend groups start to be full of people who are very similar to us. And sometimes, when we are friends with people, we try to change who we are to fit in, making the group members even more alike. The Tower of Babel story showed a large group of individuals unified under the same thoughts and languages, and how it made them push out people who were different. Friend groups can be similar to this. We group up with the people who have the same hobbies as us or act the same way as us. Because of this, when someone isn't quite like us tries to join, we can sometimes push them away. The Tower of Babel story shows us that this is not what God wants. When we make cliques, diversity is lost. Sometimes we need someone a little different in our lives to open our views of the world. If the people who built the Tower of Babel had embraced diversity, they may have been able to reach the heavens. When teenagers allow diversity into our lives, our points of views are widened to a bigger picture of our lives and the world around us. If everyone in the world accepted everyone for who they are, we could evolve in a way no generation ever has. For my Mitzvah project, I'm working with the Small Steps Nurturing Center. Small Steps provides early childhood programs to foster growth in economically disadvantaged children and their families. I chose to volunteer with Small Steps because unlike these kids who live in poverty, I have many advantages in my life, and I want to volunteer to help others have access to the same opportunities. For my Tzedakah project, I'm making a donation to the Texas Children's Hospital. I really like children, and I would love to be a pediatrician when I grow up. I hope that they can use my donation to help benefit many children by providing toys and stuffed animals to them. It is my hope that this will bring smiles to the faces of the kids who are in the hospital. I am also applying to join the Texas Children's Hospital Youth Board. The Youth Board gets together and has meetings every month and does something to help the children in the hospital, including fun activities around holidays to interact with the hospitalized children. There are a number of people who helped to get me where I am today, and I would like to thank them. Thank you to all the clergy, teachers, and staff for helping me to learn everything I needed for my bat mitzvah. Even through Zoom, you were still able to help me feel prepared and to feel confident. To all my friends, I love getting to know you all and building special bonds together. Thank you for being here to support me today. All of my family, both from Houston and from farther away, it means a lot to me that you made the effort to be with me today, in person or virtually. Emily, I've loved being your partner, and I've always loved having you as one of my closest friends. I wouldn't want to share the bima with anyone else today. Nani, thank you for the fun times in Coronado. I always love going shopping with you. Poppy, I love how you ask the best questions and can always cheer me up with some foo-foo juice. Kiki, I love to play wordscapes with you, even though you got really good at it and passed my level by a lot. TikTok, I admire the way you work on antique clocks. Hopefully we can finish our craft we've been working on together soon. Matt and Dana, I love surfing in Oceanside with y'all. Looking for sand crabs was so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again. Christy, I love how penguin obsessed we both are. It was so fun when you lived with us, and I can't wait to see you and Kevin get married next weekend. Kevin, I'm so excited that I will gain yet another brother. You're going to be the perfect addition to our family. Katie, thank you for being a great big sister and jamming out to Pitbull in the car with Zoe and me. It always amazes me how you know the words to every song. Jake, you've been a great stepbrother, and your nickname for me, Dave, sure has stuck around. I miss seeing you around the house, but I know you're having an amazing time at Boulder. Tyler, I admire that you're a good role model and you're so nice to your friends. We can bicker like siblings sometimes do, but through it all, you're my brother, and I wouldn't want to change it for the world. Lisa, when you came into my life, you came with arms wide open. I'm never afraid to tell you anything, and I feel a close bond to you as my stepmother. In Cinderella, her stepmother is harsh and cruel. When I think of you, none of those words could ever be used to describe you. You're compassionate and loving, and your brightness lights our family up. Steve, thank you for always taking me to dim sum. I love how we bond over such a precious thing as dumplings and hargao. I love how obnoxiously funny you are. I'm really lucky to have you as my stepdad, and you've helped me so much to be the young adult I am today. Dad, you're the corniest dad I know. I love the time we spend together playing softball and practicing for my other sports. You've helped me grow both mentally and physically, whether working out together or solving the New York Times crossword puzzles. I wake up every morning and know I have the best dad ever. Mom, you're one of the sweetest people I know. Whenever you meet up with work clients or friends, you make each and every one of them feel special. I know this because it's also how you make me feel. There's nothing I can't tell you in our heart-to-heart talks because I know you'll listen and respond with well-thought-out words. You're one of my role models, and I want to be just like you when I grow up. You treat everyone with kindness, and that is the kind of person you help me to be. I enjoyed my bat mitzvah experience. Even though it was a challenge to learn everything I needed to know, it was even more challenging this year because of COVID and having to do all my studies online. In this process, I learned to appreciate the advancements in technology that have only been made in the past couple of years, which have helped me connect with my teachers and my fellow students. In the future, I would like to continue into upper school here at Helfman and become a teaching assistant. As I look back on this day in the years to come, I will remember the transition from being a child to becoming a young adult and taking on responsibility for my own actions and success. I am proud that I was able to accomplish my goal of leading the service for my congregation today. Thank you for supporting me today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for your teaching. Thanks for bringing your heart and the fullness of yourself to this service and to your leadership. We're all very blessed to have you as our leader this morning. I also want to offer you a different kind of thank you, Avery, and that is that I've been a rabbi almost 20 years, so I've read this story about the Tower of Babel, I don't know, dozens of times, maybe 100 times, and your Dvar Torah led me to a question that I'd never asked about this portion before, and that is this: why did it have to be a tower? Of all the things that could have been in this story, why did the Torah go out of its way to describe that the residents of that town built a tower? It could have been a Colosseum like the Romans built. It could have been an Egyptian-style pyramid. Why did it have to be a tower? Well, you beautifully brought in this teaching from the Mitzvah, from Rabbi Berlin. And his experience under the Russian Empire was very difficult. He had the same experiences that you described in your Devar Torah about being afraid of the secret police, being afraid of the ability to live a life that is full and dignified and safe. He lived in Poland and Lithuania and Belarus, and every time he was unsure about whether he and his community would be safe. Now, you made a joke about what it feels like to be safe in middle school compared to what it feels like to be safe as a rabbi under the Russian Empire, and you're right, they are a little different. But in both cases, you accurately taught us. Both of those situations are times in which we need to do what we can to make others feel safe, make others feel included, so that our community can be enriched by all of its members. I think what both you and Rabbi Berlin and our Torah portion are teaching us, now with a new perspective I didn't have before your bat mitzvah, is that one of the gifts we can bring to the places that we live is perspective. I think that's why the story talks about a tower and not a Colosseum, because up at the top of a tower you have perspective that you don't have on the ground. And in our lives too, sometimes we bring a necessary perspective to the settings in which we find ourselves. Sometimes we bring special perspective by being the oldest person in a room. We can bring perspective by being the youngest person in the room. We can bring special perspective thanks to the privileges and the resources we have that others around us don't have. But what's important is that we use our perspective to make the places that we live safer and kinder, more inclusive, and more peaceful. The Tower of Babel didn't have to be a guard tower, as the Netziv described. The Tower of Babel could be a lighthouse from which we take our perspective to keep other people safe. The Tower of Babel could be like a lifeguard tower, where we use our perspective to save people who are in danger. I think what you teach us this morning is that we have not only an opportunity, but an obligation to use the perspective that our lives, our blessings, and our identity give us to help those around us. Avery, as you enter Jewish adulthood, I feel confident about your role as a leader, and that I believe that you will use the perspective that God has given you to look out for others. You've taught us with your words and you've taught us with your actions about how important it is to use what we have to do what we can, to keep our eyes open for those who are being left outside, to keep our ears listening to hear the complaints and the cries of people who need help, to use what we can with our hands, our hearts, and our heads to help others around us. So Avery, as you enter Jewish adulthood, I want to encourage you to continue being aware of your perspective, to know that you will bring something to every room you're in that no one else can bring, not only to be aware of it, but then to use it, to open the tent a bit wider, to include those who are on the outside, to offer help and assistance to those who are otherwise abandoned and ignored, to continue making this place and all of your places inclusive and safe and peaceful. Mazel tov on reaching this milestone. I'm so proud of you and so thrilled for all the people who love you. Speaking of the people who love you, I want to invite Adam and Tara back up to the bima along with Emily and her parents so that the cantor and I can share a moment of blessing with you. As all of you make your way up to the bima, we're going to open the doors of the ark, and as we do, I'll invite the congregation to rise. Mazel tov. Okay, so if you guys want to put your arms, beautiful.
Stand between your parents.
Yeah. Hope.
That works too.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the light of God's countenance shine on you and be good to you.
Isa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence always remain close to you. May you be blessed with the greatest gifts God gives, the blessings of wholeness and goodness and peace. Amen.
Amen.
We'll remain standing, folks, with the doors open as we continue with the words of Aleinu on the bottom half of page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You all may be seated.
Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. Yeah.
Siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov. Yehelanu, 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 u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, u'lechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, u'lechol Yisrael.
Emily and Avery, it is such a joy for us to celebrate with you and with your families today, and our whole congregation takes great pride in your accomplishments. I want to say a word about some of the gifts that you've received from our congregation. You have received a certificate indicating that a gift of tzedakah has been made in your honor. You also received an Israel savings bond, a personalized embossed copy of the Plaut Modern Torah Commentary, and thanks to the generosity of the Barish family, a fabulous free 4-week trip to Poland and Israel with your temple friends after your 10th or 11th grade year, when you remain enrolled and regularly attend our amazing upper school program at the Helfman Religious School. I want to also take just a second to mention a few community announcements about some upcoming highlights on our calendar. Our congregation's sisterhood is hosting a tour of the Museum of the Southern Jewish Experience online by Zoom. That is this coming Wednesday, the 13th at 11 a.m. The cost for that virtual tour is $10, and registrations are available online. Our congregation is also partnering with Jewish Family Service for a self-care wellness check-in on Zoom on Tuesday, October 19th, 7 p.m. Please consider joining us as we learn tips and tools about how to create wellness and self-care. Pre-registration for that event also can be found online. Lastly, we hope that you'll join us here in the Barish Sanctuary or online on Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. for a program called Building Peace with the Jerusalem Peace Builders. I encourage you to take a few minutes that evening to learn how this organization brings together Americans, Israelis, and Palestinians for interfaith understanding, leadership development, and peace building. No RSVP is required, but again, that's Wednesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. So pivoting now from looking forward, we take just a moment now to look back, to remember the members of these celebrating families whom they are remembering on this day of their joy. We take just a moment to remember these beloved members of their families: Irene Weinbaum, David Weinbaum, Ethel Shine, Stephen Shine, Ben Pesikoff, Marjorie Pesikoff, Sarah Pesikoff, Barry Weinbaum, Joan Lois Kasoy, Jenny Kramer, Toby and Michael Jacobs, Ann and Oscar Nudick, Kay Burrell, Sarah and Romeo Siegel, Sonia and Joseph Jacobs, Techa and Wolf Gradinger, Malka and Uzziah Nudick, Max and Ann Berkson, Pauline and Joseph Schumann, San and Rose Pollock, Hyman and Henrietta Trockman, Shirley and Paul Pollock, Howard Schumann, Pam Motaz, Pauletta Kay, and Ronald Pullman. The members of our congregation also remember tenderly Roberto Hernandez and Michael Lynn Lavage, who were laid to rest just this week. As we remember all those we have loved and lost, we turn together to page 294, and we rise together for the recitation of Kaddish, page 294. Yitzkadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei b'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam ulolmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
You may be seated. Emily and Avery, please come back up and join us on the bima for the blessings of Kiddush and Motzi.
If you want to pour a little bit of juice into those Kiddush cups. Take your masks off.
There you go.
That'll make drinking the juice easier.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
L'chaim.
Amen.
And the motzi over those little challahs we have.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
We close with Oseh Shalom, our prayer for peace, page 343. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
Ribono shel olam, eternal spirit of the universe, on this day of our great celebration, we give thanks for our many gifts. We thank you for the perspective which enables us to see those in need, and the voice of conscience within, which spurs us to help and heal whenever we can. Amen. Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov.
Shabbat Shalom.